I was 7 months pregnant, recovering from a surgery my sister helped me through. Then I caught her sleeping with my husband on a hidden camera in my own living room. I caught my husband and my sister. No, I didn't walk in on them. I watched them, on my phone, in real time, while I sat in a hospital parking lot, pretending to be in the emergency room. 7 months pregnant, holding my belly with one hand, and holding my entire world shattering in the other. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Just a month earlier, I thought I had it all. A stable marriage, a home filled with laughter, a 4-year-old son who adored his dad, and a little girl growing inside me that we'd been trying for over a year. My husband and I had been together for 6 years, married for most of it. He was the kind of man people call a solid guy, reliable, gentle. The kind who texts you before leaving work and still brings home your favorite ice cream without asking. And my sister? She was my best friend. Always had been. We grew up sharing secrets and clothes and dreams. She was wild and brave, everything I wasn't, but we balanced each other out. Even after I got married, she was always around. Family dinners, game nights, random Tuesdays on the couch, eating chips and talking about life. She loved my son like he was her own, and I loved that she was still part of my daily life. I truly believed I was one of the lucky ones. 2 years ago, I had to get surgery. It was serious and recovery was brutal. But my husband was my rock. He took care of everything, our son, the house, me, and my sister. She was there every day, cooking, cleaning, organizing, making me laugh when all I wanted to do was cry. Back then, I used to think, how did I get so lucky to have both of them? Now I ask myself, how did I not see it? Looking back, it didn't start with anything obvious, just tension. Little moments that didn't add up. My husband, who used to come home excited to see me and our son, started staying late at work. Always a last-minute meeting or something came up. Even when he was home, he was distant, distracted, like his mind was somewhere else or with someone else. My sister stopped coming by as often. When she did, she wouldn't meet my eyes. She was always rushing somewhere, barely staying long enough to finish a cup of tea. I tried to ask her if something was wrong, but she brushed it off, said she was busy with work. I wanted to believe her, but something about the way she avoided me, I don't know, it made my stomach turn. Still, I did what I always do, gave people the benefit of the doubt, told myself I was hormonal, tired, paranoid. That's what everyone says about pregnant women, right? Until one night. It was almost 2 a.m. I got up to pee, pregnancy bladder, the usual. When I came back to bed, the sheets next to me were cold. My husband wasn't there. No lights on in the kitchen, no sounds from the living room. That's when I noticed the back patio door was cracked open. I looked outside and saw him, sitting on the patio chair, phone to his ear, talking in that low, gentle voice he used to use with me. I couldn't hear the words, but I could feel them. They weren't business calls. They weren't innocent. They were intimate. I didn't confront him. I froze, walked back upstairs, got into bed, and stared at the ceiling until morning. The next day I asked casually, "Did you go outside last night?" He didn't even blink. Nope, must have been a dream. That was the moment I knew. Not because of what he said, but because of how fast he lied. And just like that, something inside me shifted. I stopped hoping, and I started watching. What came next? I never could have imagined. After that night, everything changed. I didn't tell anyone, not my husband, not my sister, not even my best friend. But something in me switched. I was done brushing it off. I was done second-guessing myself. I became quiet, observant, like a woman preparing for war in her own home. I started paying attention to things I'd never thought twice about before. When my husband left for late meetings, I checked the time. When my sister texted me, I read her words twice, trying to read between the lines. Their energy, their habits, their body language. It all felt wrong. And yet, they both kept acting normal, smiling, laughing, playing with my son, asking about my pregnancy. It was the fakest kind of normal I'd ever seen. One night, I saw it. My husband left his phone on the dining table, something he never did. Normally, that thing was glued to him like it held the secrets to the universe. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he thought I wasn't paying attention anymore, but I was. And when the screen lit up, my heart dropped. It was a message from my sister. Talk later. I still can't stop thinking about last night. I froze. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just froze. He walked out of the bathroom right as I was staring at the screen. He saw the look on my face, grabbed his phone, and didn't say a word. Not even a weak excuse. And that silence, that was all the confirmation I needed. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with my hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, just sitting there. My mind was spinning. The betrayal wasn't just from my husband. It was from her, my sister, the person who used to braid my hair and cry with me over dumb boys. She was the one person I thought would never hurt me. And yet, here I was. I knew then that I needed more than a gut feeling. I needed proof, not because I wanted to confront them, not yet, but because I needed something to hold on to, something to remind myself I wasn't crazy. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened my laptop and logged into my husband's cloud account. He'd synced everything a long time ago and never thought to unlink it. Within minutes, I found deleted messages, dozens of them, between him and my sister. Some of them were harmless at first. Jokes, memes, random updates. But as I scrolled, they got more personal, more intimate. I've never felt this way before. I wish we didn't have to hide. You feel like home to me. One message made me sick to my stomach. Him. Can you sneak away tomorrow? Her. I'll try, I just don't want her to get suspicious. Her. That's how she referred to me. Her. Like I was just an obstacle. I knew I couldn't confront them yet. I needed them to show themselves. So I made a plan. The next day, I told my husband I had a prenatal appointment in the city. I said the hospital wanted to run extra tests, and I'd have to stay overnight for observation. I acted nervous, even shaky, like I was scared something might be wrong. He bought it immediately. I texted my sister and asked if she could come over to watch my son while I was gone. She replied with, "Of course, anything for you." The irony nearly made me laugh. That morning before I left, I set up 2 mini cameras, one in the living room, one in the guest room. They were small, discreet, the kind you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for them. Then I packed a bag, kissed my son, and left the house. But I didn't go to the hospital. I went to my best friend's place. She was the only one I trusted. And when I told her what was happening, she didn't ask questions. She just nodded and handed me the Wi-Fi password so I could stream the camera feeds from my phone. And then, we waited. For hours, nothing happened. My sister arrived, played with my son, made dinner. It all looked normal. And for a moment, I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I really was paranoid. Maybe... At 9:47 p.m., my husband walked through the front door. No work bag, no takeout, just him. They put my son to bed together, like a couple, like parents, like me and him used to. And then, when the house was quiet, they sat on the couch, close, too close. He reached for her hand. She leaned into him. And then, he kissed her. I felt my heart stop. Not metaphorically, physically. I actually stopped breathing for a second. I stared at the screen like it was a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was my life, my home, my husband, my sister, and me, sitting in someone else's apartment, watching everything collapse in high definition. They didn't even have the decency to look guilty. They laughed. They smiled. Like this was normal, like it was okay. I didn't cry, not then. I just sat there with my hand on my belly, feeling my daughter kick for the first time all day. Like she was reminding me she was still there, that I wasn't alone. I whispered to myself, "You have no idea what's coming for you." I didn't sleep that night. After I saw them together on the camera, I stayed up until morning, just staring at the screen, watching the footage over and over again. Not because I needed more proof, I had plenty. but because my mind couldn't accept it, couldn't process it. That was my living room. That was our couch. They were sitting where my son had opened his birthday presents, where I had laid down, nauseous and exhausted in my first trimester, while they brought me soup and told me to rest. I felt like a ghost in my own life. By morning, I still hadn't cried. I was beyond tears. I felt numb, hollow. But I also felt something else growing inside me, clarity. I knew exactly what I had to do. So I went home. My sister was already gone by the time I walked in. My husband was in the kitchen, making breakfast like it was any other day. When he saw me, his eyes widened. "You're home early," he said, a little too quickly. "Yeah," I replied calmly. "The hospital ran the tests faster than expected." He nodded, awkward, trying to act normal. I set my bag down, took out my phone, and opened the video. I didn't say a word, just pressed play and turned the screen toward him. At first, he didn't seem to understand what he was seeing, but then the color drained from his face. He stopped chewing. His entire body went still. "What is this?" he asked, his voice barely audible. I didn't blink. "You tell me." Silence. He stared at the screen like he could wish it away, like if he just looked long enough, it would disappear. But it didn't. "It's not what it looks like," he said finally. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Please, don't insult me." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Just guilt, shame, panic. "So," I said, voice shaking. "How long? How long have you been sleeping with my sister?" He put his hands up, like he was trying to defend himself. "We didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. You've been so distant with the pregnancy, with everything going on. I was lonely." "Lonely?" I snapped. "So you turned to my sister? The one person in this world I trusted after you?" He didn't answer. "Do you know what you've done?" I whispered. "You didn't just cheat on me. You humiliated me. You ripped my family apart. You've destroyed everything we built." He sat down, burying his face in his hands, but I didn't care anymore. I turned away and walked upstairs. I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream. I just left him sitting there. I locked myself in the bedroom and finally broke. I sank onto the floor and sobbed. That ugly, guttural crying that doesn't make noise at first because the pain is too big for sound. I cried for my marriage, for my unborn daughter, for the sister I'd lost. I cried until there was nothing left. When I pulled myself together, I called my parents. I told them everything. They were quiet at first, trying to absorb it. Then I heard my mother's voice crack. "Come home," she said. "Whatever you need, we're here. You're not going through this alone." That was the first time I cried out of relief. I also called my in-laws. I wasn't sure how they'd react. I mean, it's their son. But when I told my mother-in-law what had happened, she was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I don't know what's wrong with him. But I want you to know, you and the kids will always be our family." That almost broke me again. That same afternoon, I texted my sister, "Me, come over. We need to talk." She showed up an hour later, looking nervous, like a child about to be scolded. She gave me a fake smile and a hug I didn't return. I didn't waste time. I pulled out my phone, played the same video, and watched her face go from confusion to horror. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Don't play dumb," I said. "Just tell me how long." She didn't answer. "How long?" I yelled. She finally whispered, "A few months." I laughed in disbelief. A few months? That's all it took to destroy me, to betray me, to stab me in the back while I was carrying his child. Tears streamed down her face. I never meant for this to happen. He was just there. And I felt seen for once. You always had everything together. I was always in your shadow. There it was, the root of it all. Jealousy. Not love, not passion, just resentment. "You could have come to me," I said, voice shaking. "You could have told me you were struggling. Instead, you slept with my husband and smiled in my face like nothing happened." She reached out to touch me. I stepped back. "Get out," I said coldly. "I don't want to see you again. Please, I'm your sister. You were my sister. Now you're just someone I used to know." She broke down, begging, but I didn't budge. Eventually, she left, still crying, still calling my name. But I didn't follow. I stood there, holding my belly, feeling my baby shift, and told myself, this ends now. That night, I told my husband to leave too. He pleaded. He swore he still loved me, that we could fix it, that the baby needed both parents. But I wasn't buying it. This baby needs a mother who respects herself, I told him. Not one who lets betrayal live under the same roof. He packed his things. I called his brother to pick him up. I didn't want to hear one more excuse. As his car pulled away, I stood at the front door, watching my 4-year-old play on the carpet, unaware that everything was about to change, unaware that the world he knew had just shattered. And as much as I hated it, I knew this was only the beginning. The silence after they left was deafening. The house felt hollow. Their absence echoed in every room. Every dish they'd used. Every blanket still folded on the couch. Every memory layered on top of another, now tainted. That first week was the hardest. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, confused, thinking it was all a dream. Then I'd roll over, touch the empty space beside me, and remember. My chest would tighten like someone was sitting on it. I'd go check on my son, kiss his forehead, whisper that he was safe, and then cry alone in the hallway where he couldn't hear me. But the worst moments? They came during the quiet. The kind of quiet where your thoughts turn against you. I kept wondering what I had missed, what I had done wrong. If I'd been too distracted, too pregnant, too tired, too much. My therapist told me it was natural to blame myself. That betrayal makes you feel like you're the problem, even when you're not. I started seeing her weekly. At first, I sat in silence for half the sessions. But over time, I talked and cried and processed. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. Meanwhile, the messages started. First from my husband. Apologies, please, paragraphs of regret. He sent long emails about how he wanted to fix things, how we could work through this for the kids. I blocked his number. Then came the emails from fake accounts. Then the gifts left at my doorstep. I didn't open a single one. Then came my sister. She started messaging too. At first it was guilt, then came the manipulation. You've always been distant. He was lonely. You pushed us together without realizing it. Reading her words was like swallowing glass. Then she showed up, at my job. I was sitting at my desk, almost 8 months pregnant, feet swollen, back aching. When I looked up and saw her standing in the reception area, I froze. Before I could move, my boss came into my office. "Your sister says it's urgent." I shook my head immediately. "I'm not seeing her." He nodded and went back out. But I could hear her yelling from my office. "She's my sister. She can't just ignore me." Everyone in the building heard her meltdown. Security had to escort her out. I was humiliated, exhausted, furious. That night, I sat down with my lawyer and started the paperwork for a restraining order. I was done being the calm one, done letting them control the narrative. And through it all, something unexpected happened. People showed up for me. My parents took turns staying over so I wouldn't be alone. My dad fixed up the nursery. My mom made me soup and massaged my swollen feet when I couldn't bend down. They didn't say much, but their presence was louder than any words. My mother-in-law called me every day. She cried when I told her the full truth. Not just about the affair, but about how broken I felt. She said, "I still see you as my daughter, no matter what my son did." She started taking my son to the park twice a week so I could rest. She brought groceries, folded laundry, sometimes just sat beside me and said nothing. And somehow, that helped the most. My best friend, she became my anchor. She cleaned with me, cried with me, even painted the nursery wall yellow when I couldn't decide on a color. And slowly, very slowly, I started to breathe again. Not fully, not easily, but enough. I smiled when my son laughed. I felt my baby kick and didn't immediately spiral into guilt. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in fragments. A morning where I didn't cry. A night where I actually slept. a moment where I looked in the mirror and saw someone strong, not someone broken. Then the baby came. It was earlier than expected. One evening while I was making dinner, my parents were there in minutes. My best friend took my son to my in-laws, and I was rushed to the hospital. The delivery was hard, scary. I'd never felt more alone in my life, but the moment they placed my daughter on my chest, I broke again, but in a different way. I cried for her, for me, for the second chance we were both getting. When we came home, everything still hurt, but it hurt less. I was starting to rebuild. One afternoon, I took my kids to the park. It was sunny, calm. My son was helping his little sister, barely walking across the grass. He held her hands, guiding her gently, whispering, "You can do it. Don't fall. I got you." I sat there, watching them, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. Not because everything was okay, but because I wasn't broken anymore. I had lost my husband. I had lost my sister. But I had gained something else. A version of myself that was stronger, fiercer, softer in the right ways, and unbreakable in others. I didn't have the family I used to dream of, but I had a new one. A real one. Me, my kids, and the people who chose to stay. And that, I realized, was enough.